This is the Sport Fiction Podcast. We discuss the world of sports at 13 PSI without a trash can in sight. If our answers frighten you, then you should cease asking scary questions. Sport fiction is a made-up piece of literature where a sport has a specific impact on the plot or the main characters. Let's see what these two characters will make up today. One is a sports analytics expert, and the other one, a sports agent. Here are your hosts, Noah and Jorge.
Hello and welcome back to the Sport Fiction. I am Jorge.
Noah.
And today we have a great show. Last week we had an all baseball special. Today we're going to talk about a few things and have a little bit more perspective on the baseball season as we're about, 15% underway. I think we're able to pull some stories from what's going on. It's good to see you, Noah. How you been?
Pretty good. This time of year is always the worst for my work. With the draft, actually, at the time we're recording this is tomorrow. So the next 3 days are going to be very busy. And then also just the start of every new season, whether it's baseball, whether it's the NFL, whether MLB, NFL, college football, it's always kind of a shit show. But we're rolling, we're doing it, and then so I guess the start of the major league season and now the draft. It's just a busy month. But good. Keeps you busy. There could be worse things in the scheme of things. It's not the worst things to complain about. But yeah, no, doing well. I got to be honest. Very happy that the Phillies are starting to play better. So my mental state is in a better spot now that I'm not being frustrated. Although they got crushed by the Reds yesterday, but that happened.
Well, we're lucky to have you present now that, during your busy time. I know winter meetings for baseball is kind of a busy time for me too. So, but there's a lot going on, not just the draft tomorrow. We got the NBA playoffs right now going on. We got the NHL playoffs going on. We got the, some teams kind of pulling away in the divisions of baseball, MLB. So that's going to be interesting. So why don't we just jump to what's top of mind? We're going to talk about, like you said, tomorrow, the NFL draft takes place. Let's talk a little bit about what your expectations are tomorrow.
Yeah. Tomorrow it's going to be interesting. I'm going to be honest. I think this draft there's good players. There's some great players, but overall, this is not the strongest draft class talent-wise that we've kind of been accustomed to. There's some exceptions, like, obviously Caleb Williams people are going to say he's the highest graded quarterback since people will say Mahomes, but Mahomes wasn't even the highest graded in his draft by most people.
Right.
So I'll say Andrew Luck. So there's that. And it's funny from I'm a big fantasy, dynasty football player. And it's kind of the first year that I can remember there's not a consensus, no doubt number one running back. I think there's a 0% chance a running back gets picked in the first round.
Wow.
And I think that my bold prediction is we might not even see a running back get picked in the second round. Now, I think chances are we probably will. But one of my bold predictions is I think there's so many players that are kind of in the similar tier of caliber of players that I don't know if there's going to be a team that's going to make that first move and be like, hey, this is the running. I think there's some merit to waiting and kind of let that decisions come to them a little bit, because so many guys are going to have such similar grades, if that makes sense. So you don't want to necessarily jump the gun and take a guy that you might be able to get with similar value 30 picks later, essentially is what I'm trying to say. So I have a feeling, this is my bold prediction, there's going to be no running back in the first round. It's not that bold. I'm going to say there's not going to be a running back picked in the second round. I'm not super confident in that, but I think there's a realistic chance that's possible. And I'm not even sure what the actual order is going to be. You can ask probably 20 different people and they'll tell you 15 different players who would their top three of with their rank. That's how similar these guys are.
Yeah.
That's not to say that I guarantee you there will be impact running backs in this draft. I'm not saying that there won't be, But I'm just saying that it's just a very unique situation where like last year everyone knew like Bijan Robinson, slam dunk, like Jahmyr Gibbs even like slam dunk would be like a no doubt top of the running back in this draft class. There's really not a guy like that in this one. So that's pretty interesting. I think the wide receivers are pretty deep. I don't know how many number one wide receivers there are besides Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Romo Dunze maybe qualifies for that. Outside of that, I think there's a lot of good number two wide receivers, good complementary guys. That's pretty deep. But yeah, there's a lot of I guess what I'm trying to say is not as much firepower as there's kind of been historically. And so I think this is going to be an interesting draft. I wouldn't be surprised if it's very defensive heavy. This is arguably some of the best cornerbacks we've seen, which is good news for if you're a team like the Eagles who needs help in the secondary desperately. So it's interesting. So I really don't know exactly how it's going to play out. It's like I always kind of do mock drafts, and it's like I feel like this year is almost the toughest because there's also just I'm going to call it like it is. There's still about half the league that still needs a quarterback, whether they openly admit it or not. About half the league still needs a quarterback, and there's only a certain amount of guys available. I do think that you're going to see a lot of quarterbacks go in the first round. My predictions, I think we're going to see 6 quarterbacks go in the first round. Should there be 6 quarterbacks that go in the first round? Probably not.
Well, so many players have to go in the first round. So if you don't have running backs, you got to have some sort of other player. What does that say about the game? Because I mean, 20 years ago, great players wanted to play all positions, including running back. So do we see less and less kids picking that position? Do they all want to be quarterbacks? And now our pool of running backs coming out of college is just not that great?
Well, it's kind of interesting that you bring that up. I think the running back position hit the last couple of years has been kind of devalued, and we've even seen it where like guys like Saquon Barkley 2 years ago didn't get paid. Josh Jacobs didn't get paid. They got franchise tag. Like teams aren't committing long-term contracts to a lot of running backs. Really, just like the freaks, like Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, like all those like guys are getting like those. They're getting the big deals. But even like Saquon Barkley this year, like the Eagles gave him a 3-year deal, which is, I mean, it's good money. Like he's making good money, but it's not like they broke the bank for arguably the second best running back in the league. So it's a position that's getting devalued. It's also a position that is just the most brutal. Like that, and that's why it's kind of like I wouldn't want to play running back. I get paid the least, and I get hit the most. And if I'm not getting hit, I'm probably staying in the block and I'm getting crushed by like guys that are bigger than me because I have to pick them up, whether it's an edge rusher or a linebacker or someone coming off safety or corner coming off. I got to pick them up. So it's an unforgiving position. Now, that being said, I still think there's studs are going to be studs, and like it just was kind of a down year for running backs this year. I think a lot of it was we had Gibbs and Bijan last year who are going to be in this league for a long time, arguably already top 5 running backs in the league.
Well, don't jinx them now.
True. But yeah, I think there's a mix of that. But I do also think that's why you saw a lot of running backs get paid this free agency and a lot of running back carousel because teams knew that this was kind of a down year for the draft. So they were willing to spend a little bit extra because historically you couldn't necessarily bank on the depth of the quality of running backs like you could in the past. So I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that's kind of why we saw that this year. Now, again, I want to be clear. That doesn't mean there's not going to be good running backs in this draft. There's a chance that there's going to be very good players. I'm just saying coming into the draft, that's the viewpoint of most people for this.
Looking at the trends, this would be, if that happens, this would be the 3rd time in almost 60 years that no running back goes in the first round. So you think of it 3rd time in 60 years, but it would be the 2nd time in 3 years because in 2022 it was the same thing. So, that tells you where this game is going, and not just, there's a reason why there's not a plenitude of running backs, I think. And it's because they understand, number one, the economics of the position. If you're going to be in the NFL for foreseeably a short time, because most NFL players' careers are short by nature, why would you want to go into a position that you may not get paid very much? And like you say, have a lot of responsibility. So if you have the skill, why not play quarterback from early on and try your luck at doing that as opposed to coming out of running back in 2024. So that makes a lot of sense. So of the you said possible 6 quarterbacks that may go in the first round. How do you rank them, and where might they go?
Okay, so I'll rank the six that I'm talking about. So for me, this is my personal rankings. Caleb Williams is number one. I want to make that clear. This is my personal rankings. Caleb Williams is number one. I'm not saying there's not red flags and there's like he's not a perfect prospect, but I think it's pretty undeniable that the upside is monumentally higher than anyone else in this draft. So Caleb Williams for me is number one. And this is where I'm very interested. I'll be the first to admit I really don't know what's going to happen after Caleb Williams going number one. Teams have done a pretty good job keeping it quiet. I have Drake May as the second best quarterback in this draft. I think I mentioned in a podcast before, I really, really like his pocket awareness. He has a very good arm. He's very accurate. He makes a lot of good throws. He actually goes through progressions pretty well for a guy who really hasn't played that long. I think he says I've been a quarterback for like 2 or 3 years. So like it's actually kind of, in my opinion, impressive. And like you kind of look for certain traits that will translate well. And those are the type of things that tend to translate well and are hard to teach in terms of like going through progressions, pocket awareness. I'm not saying you can't get better. Everyone gets better. That's what the coaching is supposed to do. But that's kind of like the hardest to really teach and like instill, besides like footwork and mechanics. And, obviously you can't teach if a guy runs a 4.3 40 or can throw the ball 100 million yards like what Joe Milton can, the kid from this draft who is not going to be one of these top 6, but I'm just giving an example of like guys that have traits. So for me, Drake May is number 2. Jaden Daniels comes in at 3 for me, Heisman Trophy winner. He's really the only quarterback in this draft, in my opinion, that is got a lot of rushing upside. Michael Penix, I guess you can kind of say has a lot of rushing upside, but he's got a lot of injury stuff, and I think like he's a little bit more concerning in that area. Where Jaden Daniels, he is a little slight, like he's decent. So I think he's like 6'2", but I think I weigh more than him, which isn't great. But so I think his skill set is kind of what the modern NFL is looking for in terms of guys that can kind of create on their own, and he's probably the best at that. Caleb Williams is pretty good at it too, but like I'm talking from like his pure unique talent perspective. So I think I think Jaden Daniels is going to be the second pick in the draft. I think Jaden Daniels goes number 2 to Washington. I think I told you why, but essentially they signed Mariota. He's the most similar skill set to Mariota. You normally want to groom a guy with similar skill sets. You don't want to necessarily have a backup that has completely different traits than someone else. So that's kind of like the main reason why I think Jaden Daniels goes too. But yeah, I think that's where I'm at with Jaden Daniels. Number 4, I got JJ McCarthy. And this is tough because I feel like J. McCarthy's all over the place. And I think we talked about it, that like he's done well, but he didn't really get asked to do much in Michigan because they just dominated with the running game and a great offensive line. So it's kind of hard to get a true read. Like even in the national championship game, they just kind of kicked the shit out of Washington and didn't have to do much. So I feel like that could also be an opportunity. I know Harbaugh is talking up like crazy, and I think there is an outside shot. I mean, I don't think this is going to happen, but there is a chance that the Chargers do something crazy on draft night, potentially move off of Justin Herbert and put themselves in a position to bring in McCarthy. I'm not predicting that. I don't think it's going to happen, but there could be some stuff there. I think McCarthy is potentially a guy that the Patriots could be interested in. I also think that we're getting into the territory now where teams like the Vikings are definitely going to do everything in their power to potentially trade up and get a quarterback. That could be a place for McCarthy. Kind of things like that, where that's the other thing about this draft is I'm really interested to see all the trades that happen. I think there's going to be a lot of movement because there's, like I said, there's specific top heavy guys that are going to go. And then a lot of similar grades. So I think there's going to be a lot of movement. I also wouldn't be surprised if there's some vet trades that happen, not to get off topic. But anyway, that's my take on JJ McCarthy. I like him. I think he's pretty solid. I put him at number 4. It's just a lot of like we haven't really seen him asked to do much, but like that could end up being a benefit to him in the long run, and it could be an opportunity for a team to snag him, and maybe he should be ranked high. Okay, my number 5 is Michael Penix Jr. And it was tough between him and Bo Nix. Those are 5, 6. Those are this. Bo Nix is the 6th. Spoiler alert. I like Michael a little bit more because, like I said, he does have some of the rushing upside. Um, he's also a little bit bigger, more like a conventional size of a quarterback. Bo Nix is a little bit smaller. And he really did light up most of the year. No one has more experience than Michael Penix. I think we made a joke. This was like his 30th year in college. Um, it's the lefty quarterback thing, which can weird people out. But actually, I really like his release. His mechanics can be improved, but he actually is surprisingly pretty accurate, which was kind of like the knock on him. But like his numbers kind of indicate that he's a little bit more accurate than people give him credit for. It also helps, just speaking freely, that he had 2 receivers that are definitely going to go, like Rome Odunze, who's probably going to be a top 10 pick, and Jalen McMullen, who I actually think is one of the more underrated players in this draft, receiver wise, more of like a number 3 slot receiver, but chain mover. I like him a lot. So that helps there. And like, obviously, they went on a deep run. Some people might not value that. I do personally. I think if a guy can win, that's the whole point of why we're playing. I'm not saying quarterback wins is like the best stat, but team success is a pretty good indication. And I don't think anyone expected Washington to go to the finals. And a lot of that is because Penix did a very good job for most of the year. So yeah, it's not perfect. It's not pretty. I think, and it's very debatable. You can easily have him last, and he's older, so like there's a specific fit there. But I wouldn't be surprised if a team like the Giants is interested in him. A team like the Raiders is interested in him. Like I said, there's so many teams that need quarterbacks. And eventually, even if you're starting to reach on some guys, once we get past this top 6, there's not much help coming in terms of, it's more just kind of dart throws and hope for the best. So I do think he'll be in a first round pick. I think whether that's in the middle or someone trades up towards the end of the first round to get him, I do think we will see that. Could be Denver's another team. To me, Denver, I think, is the spot to look for Bo Nix. I think he kind of fits what Sean Payton is looking for if they're going to go take a quarterback this year. Because, I mean, look, right now their quarterback room, the Broncos, they just traded for Zach Wilson, Jared Stidham, and I don't even know who their 3rd string quarterback is, but it's not good. So there's the Broncos are definitely tanking this year. They're not trying to win, which is why I hope I'll get to that in a second. I really do think Bo Nix might fit the style of quarterback that Sean Payton is looking for. Pretty good, pretty accurate. He can kind of run the similar style offense that he ran with Drew Brees. Now, no one's Drew Brees, and to compare Bo Nix to Drew Brees is like going to do him a disservice from day one. So, like, I don't want to put that expectations on there. Bo's kind of jumped around, but what I like about Bo is he's kind of progressed every year. And when people were like, because he came in, he was like a top recruit. He kind of underwhelmed at Auburn. People were like, he hadn't put it all together. And then when he went to Oregon, he really started to like take that next step. And I think that they kind of tailored the offense around more to his strengths, which is kind of like the hurry up style, quick read, the read option, kind of quick, kind of similar style offense that Nick Foles kind of ran when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, of like kind of like the read option. You can like pivot, you can read the linebacker, you can pull it to the slanting wide receiver, like give it to the running back. He is very good at that, and that's like a skill set that I think that teams can like utilize. And that's why I think he will probably also be a first round pick, where he probably has more of a 2nd or 3rd round grade. But as we know with quarterbacks, they always go earlier than they should, because that's the nature of the beast, right?
Why is that though? Because let me remind you of the 2022 draft. Okay. Quarterbacks: Kenny Pickett, it's already been traded. Desmond Ridder, it's already been traded. Malik Willis, he's just a backup now, right? He came out to just be a backup. Matt Corral, he's not even in the league. He's in the UFL. Bailey Zapp, I don't even know who that is. He's already been out of the league, and now got a contract as a backup somewhere. So do we think that, every year is going to be where we have these great quarterbacks and then this happens
No,
year after year? Do you see anybody really truly outside of Caleb Williams and maybe one other guy getting some significant playing time and making an impact?
oh yeah, I think they will get significant. Now, will they make an impact? I don't know. I do
Making an
think,
impact to where in 2 years from now they're still in the league
yeah,
starting.
I think Jaden Daniels will be in the league. Now, starting is a tough question. Um, it depends where they go, and it depends like their surrounding cast. You know what I'm saying? It's like, um, I think I really do like Drake May. Maybe I'll die on this hill, but I would be pretty surprised if he's not one of the best 32, because there's 32 teams. So that means there's, top 32. I'd be surprised if he's not one of the top 32 quarterbacks in the world 2 years from now. I'm not saying that's definite, but I'm saying I'd be pretty surprised if he's not, because I expect him to continue to get better. I know he kind of, I don't want to say underperformed, but like that his team, North Carolina sucked this year. Like there's no other really way to put it. Like so, like I don't really want to damage a guy from regressing a little bit, because you can only do so much. But like like if you put him on a better team, I guarantee you would have seen better results, both wins and his stats wise. So like, yeah, I think Drake May would be a guy. I think Jaden Daniels will definitely get his opportunity. Same with McCarthy. Um, those four, I would say, I bet you we hear from them 3 years from now. I think we'll still hear from them.
Okay.
Penix and Bo Nix, I wouldn't bet on it, but but you got to take chances sometimes, and I would feel more comfortable taking like a guy like Jalen Hurts went in the second round. Like to me, like I would feel much more confident taking, honestly, even guys like McCarthy. I would feel more confident taking the second round. It's just not going to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like even Jaden Daniels, in my opinion, is more of like a pure second round talent, because there's no unquestionable upside, but there's a lot of development there. But you're just not going to be able to get them at that like really, just in my opinion, only Caleb Williams and Drake May have legitimately first round grades for me. And Caleb Williams, top of the line first round grade. Drake May, probably realistically a mid like top 20 pick. Like I think that's probably where if you were to just go based on like pure talent grade wise and all things graded equally and they played the same position, that's probably where you should go. But he's probably going to go in the top 5. And like I said, Jaden Daniels is probably going to go. I think he's going to go second. So I don't know. We'll see. It's but
Well, 2 is a good over under. So we'll see 2 years from now how that plays out. I'm not so sure about Caleb. I don't think that any team is going to be 100% behind him, meaning the teammates and the culture in the locker room. So I don't know. The guy can be a winner. Hasn't been yet. So we'll see. Well, that's good, man. We'll figure out tomorrow where the NFL draft lands everybody, and we'll talk about it next week. I appreciate all your input on this. Let's do some quick picks on NBA and NHL playoffs. So NBA playoffs underway. Who do you have going to the finals? Who do you
finals.
have winning? Yeah.
So I don't want to go too chalky. I don't. But I think that we should go. If I had to choose, I really think Boston is just. I know they're the 1 seed. It's the easy pick. Is fine, but like I really just think they're better than everyone else in the East. I really do. So I'm gonna go Boston. And again, not to be too upsetting to be repetitive, but I think the Nuggets. I know they're the 2 seed. They're not the 1 seed, so it's not like a crazy thing. But I think they're gonna handle the Lakers. I think that they'll probably play Minnesota in the next round, and I think they'll handle them too. I think the Thunder will probably be who they face in the conference finals, and they'll go up against each other. But I don't know, man. I think like the Nuggets, just when they're clicking, they're just tough to beat. We've seen them, like we've seen them do it.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going Celtics Nuggets, and then I think this is the year the Celtics get it done again.
Oh, wow.
And I think that they finally, and maybe just for the sake of one of my really good friends, Mike, I'm like hopeful this happens, because I just fear for his safety if it doesn't. I'm going Celtics over Nuggets.
Well, I'm
in
going to Boston next week. We'll see how people feel come next week about their chances. I think I'm almost there. I think the Nuggets will win it all, but I think they're going to face Milwaukee in the finals this year.
I like it.
Celtics going to get upset. I was hoping this was the year of the Knicks, but I'm a realist and I understand how the Knicks operate. They're going to choke like they always do. And we're gonna see the Bucks in the finals again, losing to freaking Denver again, of all people. I was hoping the Thunder could pull it off, but I don't want to say they struggled this last game. You know, they maintained the lead in their first game, but I just don't think that they have the experience. Yeah, they had enough this year to be atop the Western Conference, but I don't think they have what it takes to run through this playoffs, and especially through Denver. So that's my prediction. What about NHL? What do you foresee happening in the next month or so?
This one's tough because I'm going to be honest. The Eastern Conference is just insane. And I'm honest, the Western Conference is like there's so many good teams. Um, that's why I was like, there's no way the Flyers should make it because they're going to get destroyed if they made it. So they kind of do myself a favor. Eastern Conference Finals. I'll go here. I've got the Florida Panthers versus the New York Rangers.
Wow.
And man, is that going to be an absolute dogfight. It's no disrespect. I know Lightning fans are going to be upset. I just think the Panthers are too good. The Lightning have Vasilevsky, so that helps. But Panthers have Bob and Sergei Bobrovsky. I mean, he just made yesterday this like behind the back save that, in my opinion, is one of the greatest saves of all time that I've ever seen, and like they won the game because of it. Essentially, the clinic that they both of them, Vasilevsky and Bob, put on was insane. But I think goaltending is the number one most important thing in the playoffs. Panthers have it. Their defense and neutral zone is just impossible against them when they're clicking. And I love the addition they made at the deadline of Tarasenko. They're a better team than they were last year, kind of by a lot. Now there were some injuries last year towards the end of it, but like I think they're a much better team than last year. And last year they went to the finals. I think they're going back. I think I'm going to take Florida to beat the Rangers. It's going to be tough. And for the record, I think the Rangers and Carolina Panthers, the Carolina Hurricanes, that is going to be an all-time series if we get there in the second round, which I think we're going to get there. I'm not sure. I was going back and forth between the Rangers and the Hurricanes for a while. And honestly, if Panthers versus Boston or Toronto is going to be insane too in the second round. But I just think from all the reasons I said, the Panthers are going to get it done. And I think that the Rangers and Hurricanes are going to beat each other up so much that it's just going to be so much to overcome the Panthers if they get through the finals. Yeah. So I'm going to say the Panthers are coming out as the Eastern Conference Finals. The West, I'm going to be honest, I'm less I guess I should say I have less knowledge about the Western Conference than the Eastern Conference, just speaking freely. With that being said, I think Edmonton finally gets it done this year and works their way. It's time. It's time for Connor McDavid. It's time for Draisaitl. It's time for all of them. Take that step, get it done, and Connor McDavid's the best player in the world. No doubt. There's no doubt about that. It's time for him, and he's played well in the playoffs too, but I think he's going to really prove. I think he's on a mission to prove that he's the best player in the world. And I think we're going to see Oilers, Panthers, Stanley Cup Finals. And man, this is tough because I hate to do this to my Panthers amigos, but
I was going to say you're going to be a homer or what?
Going with the Oilers. I think they get it done. I think this is the year McDavid lifts the cup, and they Panthers lose in the second consecutive year in the finals. And one of my best friends is gonna really hate his life. But
that's funny. I'm gonna change who I thought. So initially, before the playoffs started, I thought Winnipeg might have a chance to come out of the Western, but I think I'm gonna go with the Rangers and the Avalanche in the finals. But this is gonna be one of those years where what's supposed to happen happens, and I see the Rangers beating the Avalanche probably in 6 games.
Yeah, I like it. I'm gonna say the finals go 7. Game 7 Stanley Cup Finals. What could be better?
I tell you what's better. What can be better? MLB Game 7 of the World Series. There hasn't been too many of those lately. I mean, last year I did predict it would go in 5, and I was right.
Yeah, well, that would have gone longer if the Phillies didn't choke.
You're used to that. Well, let's go to our strikes, because our first strike for me brings us back to Major League Baseball. So strike number 1, I want to talk a little bit about Jackson Holliday. So I don't know if he's getting more hype than he should. I haven't seen this much hype in quite a few years for a rookie. I mean, he was in high school, what, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. So trying to navigate high school graduation, and now just 19, he's in the league. And we've had a few of those, but in my opinion, I think some of the hype has hurt him because of the expectations, and his own expectations to prove everybody right, and how good he is and what impact he can have at the major league level. Does he still have 1 hit? I mean, 1 for 30 something, right? I got to tell you, man, as bad as that sounds, there's some good players that have started their career in the dumps like that. Ken Griffey Jr., he didn't fare too well when he started. Willie Mays, of all people, had about the same batting average through 30 at bats. So I think the kid will come out okay. I think that they need to just not give up on him. But I gotta say, my pick for Rookie of the Year has already been called up with the Orioles. I mean, the Orioles, you could tell. I mean, they're just stacked, and it's probably unfair. They're atop the division right now. I don't know if it's going to be a situation where they remain there all year, because we know how baseball is, but they're set up to fight for it and win it at the way that their team lines out. What do you think about Jackson Holliday so far?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like obviously it's he hasn't performed, and I think we're probably about another week away from him continuing not to perform, to where they're gonna not have a choice to send him down because their entire team's performing, and there's guys on the bench that shouldn't be on the bench. But I think you're right. And what gets lost in this is like it's okay for young players to struggle. This kid can't even legally drink yet. So like yeah, like we get like these unfair expectations because Juan Soto was just a freak and at 19 was like the best hitter in baseball. Like that's like Fernando Tatis. Like these guys come up and are just like, even Julio Rodriguez, who had like a monster year. Julio Rodriguez has been awful this year. Like it's early, and I'm sure he'll be fine. But like there's a lot of guys that have been like offense has been kind of down this year, which is interesting. But yeah, it's normal for these guys to struggle. And honestly, if he didn't struggle, it would be almost like, I don't want to say concerning, but it would just be like almost like inhuman.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, I mean, it's not great. And he does look a little overmatched, which is weird because I think in spring training, he didn't look overmatched. And that's where, and obviously in AAA, I mean, he was dominating. Um, so I think it's just a thing of like, I actually think him coming up struggling and then potentially getting sent back down couldn't end up being the best thing to happen to him, because it's going to be the first time in his life he ever actually struggled to play baseball
Right.
at like any level. And Joey Votto is actually, I'm so happy. When I worked for the Reds, I got to talk to him, and he told me this, and I was like, "This is such a brilliant point." Joey Votto is the coolest guy ever. But he is like, you don't learn anything when you're doing well.
Right.
Things just happen. So it's like, it's kind of like, you can kind of learn like certain things, but it's like, you're kind of just like things are doing well. But you learn everything when you're struggling. And I'm like, what? I was like, okay, like, what do you mean by that? He was like, well, you can always ask why. Okay, why was I doing well? Well, I was hitting the ball well, I was seeing the ball well, whatever it is, I can pick up spin, whatever it is, whatever the reasons. Why am I not hitting the ball well? Oh shit, I'm expanding the zone. I got to stop doing that. Oh shit, I'm constantly taking first pitch strikes, which is consistently my best pitch that I'm getting. Like, hey, I'm consistently getting on 2-0 pitches. I'm getting the changeup, and I'm swinging out of the fastball. And I'm getting over aggressive and swinging over it consistently, and all I can do is roll over and hit it in a second. You get what I'm saying? Where it's like you actually will when things are going well, yeah, people will look at film and you'll go to your coach's staff, but you don't want to change anything. You don't want to tweak anything. You just kind of ride that wave. When things are struggling, okay, we go back to the lab and we kind of dissect what's going on. And I think this is the first time in Jackson Holliday's life that he has to do that. And I think ultimately that's going to benefit him. Again, the kid can't even get a drink yet. So, like, he's not, the Orioles aren't going to give up on him. And the Orioles are in a fortunate situation where they're the most stacked depth team in the league where, all right, Jackson, like, we gave you 50 at bats. You got one hit. We got to send you down because we have 3 other guys that can do this. But you have one really good month, you'll be right back up. And injuries will play itself out. Like, they're going to need him. Like, right. If they're going to win the World Series, they're going to need him. And whether that's this year, whether that's next year, whether that's 5 years from now, all they got to do is get him to be developed to be a big league player. And we probably did have unfair expectations, like people calling him like rookie of the year, potential MVP guy. Like, that's not fair. Like, that's not fair to put things on guys. If you're an Orioles fan, it's okay to be slightly disappointed, but would I be concerned? Not even a little bit.
So let's go to your strike number one, because you wanted to talk about other young minor league players that everyone needs to know about.
Yeah. So there's a couple that stick out. James Wood, the outfielder / first baseman. I think he's going to play outfield for the Nationals. There might not be a better power hitting prospect in baseball than James Wood. This guy is just off to a monster start, hitting everything in sight, like literally everything in sight. And his like exit velos are like on par with like Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Ronald Acuna, like the top guys in the league. Like his exit velos are like comparable to them. I'm telling you, man, the Nationals 2 years from now are going to be a problem because their young guys are coming up. That kid Mitchell Parker's pitching pretty well, but they got Dylan Cruz who will be there, James Wood, C.J. Abrams, who I said I told you to keep an eye on him. Yep. Kid's got 6 home runs already. I mean, he's got a legitimate shot at 20 to 30 home runs this year, and he's going to steal 60 to 80 bases. It's going to happen. So, like, they've got a young, fun core that's coming, and James Wood's going to be a part of that. So he's there. The other guy who's not a consensus top prospect, that's off to just a ridiculous start, is this guy Joey Loperfido. I think Fido.
Who?
Exactly.
Who is that?
Astros outfield prospect. This kid's got 10 home runs already. And it's just like absurd how he's tearing the cover off the ball. Now he's got some strikeout issues. He's a power bat. He's got some strikeout issues. That's always going to be a part of his game. But he's a guy that I think people need to take notice on because he's going to come up eventually for the Astros. And if they can pull out, the Astros seem to find these players that like are undervalued and they come up and they have big, and he might be the next one. He's a guy that I'm super excited about. And then the other one, just for the sake of time, to make it obvious, is Paul Skeens. This guy has no business being in AAA anymore. And it's just a matter of service time at this point. And he can probably come up in the big leagues. I mean, Jared Jones is having a monster start this season, arguably like one of the Cy Young favorites right now. And Skeens has better pure stuff than this guy. The Pirates are building a fun young rotation because they also got a kid, Bubba Chandler, who was a two-way player, now just a pitcher. It is just nasty. They got some guys coming. So those are the 3 that really stood out that I wanted people to mention. James Wood and Skeens, I think a lot of people are familiar with prospects, probably heard of. Loperfido, I don't think people have, and I wanted to get people on that radar.
You don't think this Skeens has a lot to work on before maybe making a difference of an extra game every 2 weeks, extra win to the team? I mean, they're only 2 games behind. Do they wait till they're like in a fight to bring him up, or do they just bring him up to make him develop?
I think it depends on, I think a lot of it too is also like innings manipulation. They don't want him to necessarily, like, I don't know what the number is, whether it's 150, whether it's 160, like whatever it is. That's why he's also like not throwing more than like 4. I think he got up to 5 innings in his most recent start, but he's not throwing more than like 70 pitches. Like, so I think that's a little bit to do with it. But I mean, my concern is like I just don't know what I think he needs to be challenged because I just don't know like he's just dominating. Like he's not even like getting challenged, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it's like I think he is actually ready for that next step in development because I think he needs to be challenged. Like he's too good for AAA. I mean, AAA hitters just can't hit him.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of more of why I think like for his actual development, every guy's different. You know, some guys need longer times and sometimes need to like struggle. I don't think he's going to struggle in the minor leagues because he's just too dominant. So I think and he's also kind of like voiced a little bit of frustration that he's not in the big leagues because he's like, what else do I have to do to prove it?
But I
So
mean, Jack Leiter was the same way, and then he comes up and gets knocked around. Is that going to? I don't know. Don't be mad. I think the organization knows what they're doing a little bit.
yeah,
They've been around
which
for a
is
while.
fair, which is fair. And I think Jack Leiter will be fine. But for like full transparency, Paul Skeens is probably double the pitcher Jack Leiter's, which is crazy because Jack Leiter's good. But Skeens is just kind of like that Strasburg tier when they just come in and they're just like, it's just different. So yeah,
Strasburg finally retired. So
yeah,
the kid had a good run. I mean, I think he's very disappointed with how it went down, but I think that he brought an extra something to that team and that organization. And I don't know, maybe they owe him for what he risked and gave up of himself to that organization. But so let's talk about on my strike number 2 about the alternate uniforms in sports, and not just baseball, but all sports now. We have all these extra City Connect, uniforms and alternative uniforms and all that. What do you make of it? I mean, I know that it's fun for the fan base. It's fun for the kids coming up. They're not used to. They probably don't want to just rely on the old school, there's pinstripes and nothing else, the whites and the grays, and it's fun to just like the Phillies, City Connect came out. They don't even have a color that that it would identify them as Philadelphia unless you knew better.
flag. Yeah, I mean, I kind of hate the traditional gray uniforms, just being honest. Like, I think it just looks shitty. And like for a while, I was like, wow, I wish the Phillies would just wear like their red spring training tops when they would go on the road. You still wear the gray pants, whatever. Um, I like that they're trying. Well, I mean, it's all to be clear. A lot of it's just to sell more merchandise.
Yeah.
But like I do think there's like a way where like that looks cool. Like like you can get the youth to like be like more involved. Like personally, like I don't know if you saw the Fanatic hats that the Phillies were wearing. It's like I gotta get one of those. Like that's the coolest hat. Like that'll be the coolest hat I own. Like I need that. So like I want that. I kind of like the idea. Like I kind of hate how like the NFL, not to get off topic, but like the NFL, it's like you can only have like 3 jersey combinations, and it's like, and I get it from like a manufacturing standpoint, but like I don't know, the Eagles, like I love the Eagles black jerseys, I love the Eagles Kelly Green jerseys. Like why can't they wear both in the same season and like with like the Kelly Green helmet and the black helmet? Like what does it actually matter? And like the white and their traditional green are never going to go away. So like I kind of hate that there's like restrictions on that, and I think they're getting a little bit better with it. But I'm all for experimenting, trying to like make it more interesting and like less, like I said, gray and white and just like kind of boring.
Yeah.
And like,
Are we gonna end up like Oregon? I mean, are we gonna have a team with like 12 freaking uniform combinations at any point?
Unless the Portland gets a baseball team because the Nike factory is there. But I don't think so.
That would be funny. Now, one thing I don't like though is the American League and National League uniforms they use for the All-Star game. I wish they went back to players wearing their uniform when playing at the All-Star game. What do you think about that?
100% agree. I don't like, you can wear like the batting practice, like for batting practice, like American League, National League, and like, you can do that. But I 100% agree. I wish that they would do that because it's like, it's more pride. You're representing your team. And I think like, I know this sounds weird, but like it means more. Like I'm representing the Rangers, the Rays, like the Phillies. Like I want like my fans to like I want you to see like that's what you're used to seeing me in. And then like you see me in like this like weird National League jersey, which might be cool. Like, but like I don't know. I know they wear like their hats sometimes, but like I would wear the whole jersey. Like,
Yeah.
whether it's gray, whether it's white, whether it's the alternates, whatever it is. Or I think it'd be cool if you let the player choose what jersey he wants to wear, like see what I'd like to see
Yeah.
Zach Wheeler shoving it baby blues why not?
That would be cool. I think also it's all about the money anyway, just like with the other uniforms. They're just like, hey, let's throw this in there and let's make even more money for both the clubs, the league, you name it. So, all right, makes sense. Well, what about your strike number 2?
So strike number two is more. We kind of talked about the draft already, so I don't want to be repetitive. But there's a couple things I'm really looking into, and I kind of hinted at it. One, I think there's going to be a lot of trades. I know that's like, oh, there's always a lot of trades, but no. And what I mean by that is, I'm not necessarily saying trading up for draft picks or draft certain players. There will be some of that, but I think you're going to see more trades involving veteran players, like what the Eagles did with AJ Brown a couple years ago. Um, the reason why I say that is because, like I said, top heavy draft, a lot of guys with similar grades. It's good depth draft, not great impact starters draft. Not top to bottom. This is a general statement compared to others. Like like I said, cornerbacks. There's cornerbacks. We might be seeing starters go all the way into the 5th round. Like that's how deep there's corners this year. Just depends how it flows. But like once you like a good example I'm trying to think of is like maybe someone sitting in the middle of the 1st round or at the back end of the 1st round that really needs a wide receiver, or it doesn't have to be a wide receiver. I'm just giving an example. And the top guys are all gone. And really everyone else on their board is like very similar in terms of grades. They might be willing to move that pick to some team that maybe wants to move up for a quarterback. Like, I don't this is I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm just saying, like, what if Minnesota's sitting on the clock? Patriots are at number 3. The top 2 guys go. Minnesota only has like McCarthy left as their top player, or Drake May, or whoever it is, and they're like, "Shit, we've got to package our 2 first-round picks and Justin Jefferson or something like that, or a first-round pick and Justin Jefferson, so we can keep one." Like, again, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just giving you an example of like the scenarios that we might see ourselves in, where there's like a lot of veteran guys that, maybe the Broncos view this as an opportunity to, if we're going to tank, let's trade Patrick Surtain Jr. And what do we need a number 1 corner in the league for if we're not trying to win right now? You get what I'm saying? So like,
Yeah.
same with Marshawn Lattimore. Like that could be a guy that could potentially get traded. Like, and you never know. Like, there's no specific players in mind. I was just giving examples, but like, I do think we're going to see some of that because this draft, like I said, there's not that many impact guys. I think teams who are kind of going for it might be more willing to trade back end 1st-round picks, high 2nd round, 3rd round, etc., for like an impact caliber veteran that they kind of need to come in instead of reaching on a guy that probably shouldn't be picked, if that makes sense. Where they're trying to get, or just taking the best player available, which is not fulfilling their needs, what they need to do to try and compete.
Yeah, I think that's how the game has evolved. The front offices are getting smarter and smarter, and they can't be left behind because then they're not going to win if you have other front offices making the right moves. And the right moves are not necessarily anymore pick on your spot and pick the best guy, because that might not be your need. And if they understand what the need is to get you to that next level, then they just got to use all their currency, all their draft currency, the current power or player currency they have, and make the moves that they need to put themselves in a successful position, regardless of what the draft is doing or making you do or driving you to do.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll see.
Yep. All right, I'm gonna go to strike number 3. This is gonna be a quick one. The WNBA. It's getting some traction because of the tournament being over, Caitlin Clark and the Bayou Barbie and all this other stuff. And then a lot of people are realizing, with all the hype, how much WNBA players are making. What do you make of that? Like as a fan, I mean, okay, you and I being in the industry, we understand what drives salaries in any league for that matter, because of revenue, share of revenue, and the opportunity that it represents. But a lot of fans don't. Fans think that somebody who is in a position of being on ESPN 13 times a day should be paid gazillion dollars, but that's really not the reality. So what do you make of both the salaries in the NBA, the coverage that they're getting now because of what's happening, and ultimately what the opportunities will be for these WNBA players going forward?
Well, I mean, kind of, I think we spoke on it briefly, but like, the reason why WNBA salaries are what they are is because the league doesn't make money. So it's like a company, right? It's profitability. Now, the reason why it exists is because the NBA makes money, they float them and they just finance it. Now, with that being said, this was the most successful, and it's because of Caitlin for sure. Most successful, like there were more viewers for the college championship, that WNBA draft, like than ever. So like it's smart for them to try and capitalize on it. And I think it's going to be up to the fans. If fans show up, if they go to games and they start buying more merch, and it sounds like that's happening, salaries will go up. It's a business. That's how it works. Economics. If they don't, then they won't. And it's a shame because like it's like it's just a fact. Like for whatever reason it is, women's sports just isn't as viewed as entertaining as men's sports. I'm not trying to trigger people. I'm just telling you that's like we have numbers to back that up. Like so the one thing that I think WNBA could really explode is sports betting, because that's really hasn't really become trickled into the WNBA yet as much as like it potentially can be. And as more states become legal, more revenue opportunities can get there. But yeah, I think until we actually see them start making money, people actually like show up and go to games and spend money on WNBA stuff, it's just going to be the way it is. And like, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but like if it weren't for the NBA's existence, willing to float them, the WNBA wouldn't even exist right now.
Will there ever be another player that will get an offer from Ice Cube or something like that to go do something other than play basketball in the WNBA?
Probably. I mean, records are meant to be broken. There'll be another Caitlin.
Hopefully she plays for OU. Boomer Sooner. Yeah. Let's go. All right, let's go to your strike number 3.
My third and final strike, and if my computer dies, I'm sorry. I just got an alert. The Patriots documentary. You got to watch it. I don't want to give spoilers, but it is awesome. A recap of it's on Apple TV Plus. The whole recap of the dynasty, and it's crazy how they villainize Bill Belichick to like a crazy extent. Like it's the only spoiler. Like it's kind of wild. It's a little skewed, I think, in my opinion, but without giving too much information, you gotta watch it. It's mind blowing, in my opinion. It's crazy, and it makes me wonder why Bill was there for so long, anyway. But yeah, no, it's you gotta watch it. It's so well done. I mean, it's again, I don't know, I don't want to influence
10
people.
episodes. So does this span like his whole career at New England?
From Brady getting drafted to taking over for Bledsoe to like literally him winning the Super Bowl on the Bucs.
Okay, that's my next watch then. That'll watch the Dynasty New England Patriots. 10 episodes on Apple TV. Perfect. All right, I'm gonna watch it and we're gonna talk about it in an episode.
Well,
does that sound?
I might rewatch it. That's how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Good deal. Well, man, we had a good show. I appreciate your time. I know we're going to talk a lot about the NFL draft and how it all plays out next week. Before we go, I have a name a player or guess a player for you, and I'm hoping this one stumps you. Tell me when you're ready. All right. So he's a baseball player, first of all. So that might be easier for you.
Michael Jordan.
No. But here's the deal. So this is the only player who had on the record books, 3 hits for one team and 1 RBI, and 1 hit with 2 RBIs for another team on the same day. Okay, sorry about that. Technical difficulties. So this is the only player in recorded history. He had 3 hits and 3. He went 3 for 4 with 1 RBI for one team, and 1 for 2 with 2 RBIs for another team on the same day. This is in 2018. Tell me if you have any clue so far.
I remember someone getting traded and switching dugouts. Who was that? Because they were playing against each other.
Oh, that would have been fun. I'm gonna look that up.
Am I right?
Not this guy.
Not this guy? Okay.
Not this guy. All right. So he debuted it. I'll tell you this. He debuted it in May of 2018. Maybe that sheds some light.
Is he still in the league?
He's still in the league, yeah.
Good.
All right.
This
one might give it up.
Oh, okay.
Youngest player to hit a home run in the World Series. Oh, wow. I thought for sure you would know that one.
This player to hit a home run in the World Series. I thought it was Andrew Jones.
Nope. Not him. Youngest player. Debuted in 2018.
No. Juan Soto?
There you go. Juan Soto.
Yeah.
So
there.
I'm going to give you some weird stats about Juan Soto.
Yeah.
His first at bat, his major league debut was May 20th, 2018.
Yep.
However, he pinch hit that game. He didn't start, but then he started the next game, May 21st. And his very first pitch he saw, he hit for a home run.
Okay.
But did you know that that's not his first major league home run on record?
No.
And do you know why? Okay. So his first so you got to go back 5 days before he was called up. The Yankees were playing the Nationals on May 15th, 2018, and the game got suspended in the bottom of the 6th inning because of rain.
Yep, I remember.
So then 5 days later, so on May 15th, Soto was playing for I forgot who the team was in the minor leagues.
High A Nationals.
yeah, the high A game. What is it called? Yeah, I got it right here. Harrisburg Senators. So he's playing for the Senators on May 15, 2018. He went 3 for 4. He was playing against Mountcastle on the other side, who went 3 for 3 that day and won the game for the opposing teams, the Bayside something. It was pretty funny to see that. But he went 3 for 4 with an RBI. 5 days later, gets called up to the Nationals on the 20th. On the 21st, hits a home run. Well, then in June, a month later, they resumed the May 15th game. And because he was already in the roster in June, he was able to come in to pinch hit in the 6th inning and hit a 2-run home run.
That's so cool.
To give the Nationals the lead. So on record, Soto has a home run on May 15th before he was even on the league.
Or even made his debut.
Yeah. So all of a sudden whoever caught his first home run on May 21st now really has a home run that is not his first home run on record, because that technically, according to the record book, happened on May 15th when he was still playing for the Senators. So
I vaguely remember that. Now that you tell me the story, I vaguely remember this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just thought that was pretty funny.
Nah, and when you said the youngest player in Major League Baseball to home run in the World Series, I was like, okay. Thought it was Andrew Jones, but 2018 is it has to be Juan Soto.
Yeah. Well, man, good show. I think I told you about this, but I had a dream last week that I caught Mike Trout's home run at the Trop, and then for some reason he retired and I had his last home run. I hope that happens to me someday, even if it's not Mike Trout, that I can catch somebody's last home run. I don't know if I'll catch anybody's first, but Soto is tearing it up though right now. I think he's gonna be earning his paycheck. So
You're gonna get a lot of money.
that's good for him. Well, man, good episode. I appreciate your time. I know it's your busy season right now. Tomorrow is the culmination of a lot of things that you've been working on very hard for a long time, and hopefully next week we can talk about how right you were on your predictions. And
we'll
2 years
see.
from now that we're not talking about what a bust all these quarterbacks were.
Oh, there will be busts. Don't worry. That's for sure. But
Good deal. Well, I appreciate your time. This from me, Jorge.
I'm Noah.
We want to thank you, listeners. You can find us on your favorite podcast app, either Spotify or Apple Podcasts, on our Facebook page, The Sport Fiction, or our website, www.thesportfiction.com. From all of us here, we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.
Have a good one. Make something happen, Howie.
Do it.